All right, good. All right, so let's go ahead and begin. Hey guys, this is Esteban here joining you. I'm live here at FlexPipe headquarters in our new building. So there's a lot of moving around. Nonetheless, we had the chance to have a good conversation this morning, myself along with Julian DePelto regarding all things Moonshine Shop. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys that video that we did this morning, and also let you guys know that we are going to be able to answer questions through the chat live as we present you the video. And then also we'll be live after the video is done. Again, we're live here answering questions. So whatever the questions you may have, go ahead and put them in through the chat. And then also to let you guys know, along our panelists, we have Cesar Flores from Ciudad Juarez. He's working from Bosch over in Mexico. So he is a moonshine expert. We were able to have a lot of good information from him. So he is online and he's more than happy to answer questions as well as myself, Julianne, and then some of our project managers who are also joining us for the webinar. So let's go ahead and begin.
Clear, Mark.
That's it? You good?
Yes. Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome to the Moonshine Shop webinar. I'm here with Julian, co-founder of FlexPipe, and we're going to be talking about all things moonshine. First things first, the name itself is pretty curious to know what it is, right? Yep. If you don't know, then it's really about the Prohibition era, right? Moonshine came from the liquor that was being made out in the woods, in the forest, away from everybody. Again, they weren't allowed to make it, so they had to go somewhere else and hide, essentially. And by the light of the moon is kind of where they worked. They packed up what they could and figured out the rest once they were setting up shop. So that's kind of what the Moonshine Shop is about, is figuring out what you have available first and getting it going, starting the rhythm, getting something going as far as a setup, and then from there figuring out what you may need and what else you can adjust or add to your moonshine shop in order to be able to have a functioning place where essentially what you want to do is think outside the box.
Yeah.
So again, Julian here, you've had some experience with moonshine shops before, so if you could just tell us a little bit about the experiences that you've had in the past.
Yeah, I know that you guys, there's many different ways to manage the moonshine shop. Some have like a Kaizen leader managing the place. Some is part of the maintenance job. Some they have people on light duty, on light maintenance. They come, they request time to have time to come to the moonshine shop. So I think there's all sort of ways today, and don't be shy to comments and say how you manage, who's taking care of the moonshine shop in the comments, because it's interesting to learn more about how you guys do it.
So there is no wrong answer, really. The idea is you got to figure it out. You got to start somewhere, and that's what the Moonshine Shop is, right? For us, what we had to do, again, we're in the middle of switching from one place to another.
Yeah.
So this is what we're doing. We're using a moonshine shop and we're putting it where we need it to be. Maybe tomorrow we might have to change it, put it elsewhere, but it's very easy to just close up and set up shop somewhere else. That is the idea. Again, our FlexPipe crib is something that we like to emphasize a lot. If you have a small area somewhere where you need to set up a shop, again, this is a very simple way, a very simple solution where everything kind of closes up and then you can go ahead and have everything you need. One of the additions that I did to the Moonshine Shop was add the posters, because for me, sometimes as a free thinker, I like to just go ahead and be able to see what parts are available and kind of visualize within the parts what it is that I'm trying to do. So visually, that's a really nice a cue for me. Before anything else, I think all of the Moonshine Shop ideas will begin with a suggestion board. Yeah. Again, this is the one that, again, everything we do is made with tube and joints because this is what we're made of and this is what we do, right? This is what we're known for. So for us, the submission board, right? We're gonna put ideas here. It's just a matter of using one of these suggestions, right? So we're gonna use one of these little guys here. This is where you write down your the description of the problem. You try to maybe do a little design for the problem. And then how we can enhance and essentially design a solution for it. So anybody can do this. You don't have to be a great artist. It's really about just having the the liberty to think and to express yourself, and that's really what separates the Moonshine shop from maybe the maintenance shop and any other area in your facility. It's that this is an artist shop essentially.
But I think the graphic there, the image, is super important, and I think we'll get to this sheet at some point. But it's super important. People, they tend to be a little bit worried about how nice it will be done. It doesn't have to be nice. It just have to be visible, visual, I mean. So that's the idea. Here, anyone can suggest ideas, issues, anything that bugs them during the day.
Right.
We use paper. I know Caesar is on the webinar, and people go to a portal online and they submit a problem, an issue. That's another way to do it. It can go through their supervisor, it can be the worker directly. So there's different ways. If you have other ideas, if there's different process in your organization, again, put it in the comments.
Yes, don't be shy. That's actually the best way for everybody to move forward is really to give suggestions. You mentioned something else. So we have the suggestion sheet. From there, I figured that if you have, if you kind of figure out which ones are going to be submission, which ones are going to be planned, and essentially which ones are going to be, what do we call this? Implemented, okay?
Yeah.
So in this process here, there's a nice way to figure it out, and that's with the 7 ideas sheet. Again, this is something that you can download. It'll be in the links below to be able to go ahead and download it. So I'll just bring it up closer. And if you want to talk a little bit about the 7 ideas sheet,
well,
Julian?
this is I took it from Mitsubishi that doing wings for airplanes.
Okay.
And basically, you know how people, they have this idea and they already know how to solve it, and it's usually the number 1. But there they request people to at least come with 7 different ways to solve the issue or to improve the actual situation. And it's funny because why 7? Well, it's usually the employee will come to 3 or 4 different ideas. But when we require to have 5, 7, 6, and 7, they have to go see other workers. They have to ask their supervisor, go on the line and ask, hey, I need to find other ideas. And usually 6 and 7, it's really outside the box ideas. And they're usually a mix of it. So at some point, most of the time, Jason Gilwell from Mitsubishi was saying that usually it's number 5, 6, 7 that are finally the final solution. So that's, you know, it's forced the people to think outside the box rather than go, okay, this is how we should solve the problem. So.
Yeah, no, this is actually really good. It reminds me of school industrial design where, again, we were doing concepts and it was just about putting as many ideas on paper as possible. It doesn't matter if it made sense or not. It's just to get the brain and the hand to just put ideas down. And I think the more ideas you have, the more essentially you're going to be able to find more solutions in that sense. So this, again, it's in the links below, so download it and make use of it. Another one that we also have is the one that we use here, which is a project sheet. Again, also available in the links below. Again, so I think when you figure out what's going on here, when you get it kind of a solution from here, essentially then now you can kind of really focus on what's really going to take to make that solution possible. Okay, so that's usually where we bring out the project sheet. It's a grid, so you can draw in isometric. It's very simple, guys. We're just making dots, connecting lines, and essentially finding the rectilinear shape that we're looking for. Okay. Again, it doesn't have to be Picasso, Dali, none of that. It's just straight up scribble. If you have to write, if you have to put ideas, put everything that you want to put in this paper here. Again, it's just going to help you visualize what you're trying to do.
And
so,
if I can add, Esteban, one of the things I really like about the one we use here, it's the first 7 square that represent the mudas, so the waste. So the employee here have to select what waste is he going to solve. So it's just a matter of having the same wording, the same way to things over. At the beginning, people, they're like, yeah, I'm not sure, but at least to understand what are the wastes, Is it waiting? Is it over process? Is it like just movement? So
right,
yeah,
it's a way to
very basic,
identify and to understand what it is, what is the problem, what is the actual problem, and then try to understand with the terms and then find a solution for it. But the idea is, again, to familiarize yourself with these terms so that essentially you begin to spread that culture throughout. That's great stuff there. Again, example, right? This is something we made here. If I bring this, I'm just going to swing this around real quick. And for us, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to go ahead and, this was, again, a suggestion. This is the common tools area for us. These are tools that perhaps we don't necessarily need every single day. So maybe once, twice a day, somebody's going to come here, grab something, and then bring it back to make sure that it ends up back where it came from. But again, this is made here, tube and joint structure, again, and this was written in the suggestions and then implemented onto the shop floor. We have made a few modifications along the way, and that's something that's very important, I think, is to always understand that whatever is made in the Moonshine shop, sometimes you fail, and sometimes it's a winning solution. But at the end, they're all winners, because if you fail or if you fall 10 times, you get up 11, right? And that's the idea with the Moonshine shop, is you don't be afraid to fail, because if you didn't figure out how to do it, at least you figured out how not to do it. And that's a nice way to think about it sometimes. So don't be afraid to fail. Again, common tools area.
Yeah, and I think one thing you said that is quite important. For sure, here we use pipe and joint system. That's our main business, so that's why we carry in our Moonshine shop. But I think the thing here is important to have a material that is not too expensive. If you have scrap, if you have recycled material, it's a good way to put it in your Moonshine shop, because it allows you to fail a little bit more and try storming and prototype storming.
Absolutely.
If you have a long process with design team, or if you have expensive material, you want to make it right the first time, and this is where the process gets very long, and I rarely see make it right in the first time. I rarely see that. So try to have recycled material. If you're in the wood business, maybe it's not pipe and joint, maybe it's wood. If you're in the metal sheet business, maybe you want to use the metal scrap for tabletop, for example, but at least to try to reduce your costs and reduce the feeling of just wasting money.
No, that's a huge point there. Again, I call that, dumpster diving. Figure out what you have, what's laying around in your facility, and try to see how you can implement that into the Moonshine shop. First things first, you want to make sure just to do a head count, see what's going on, see what hasn't been used, see what's all full of dust, pick that up and say, hey, nobody's using this, I can use this, and bring it to the Moonshine shop. Once you eventually you'll get to a point where you begin to look for other materials and other solutions. But before that, definitely recycle as much as you can. As you progress in the Moonshine shop, then maybe you're going to find alternate solutions that can help enhance the Moonshine shop. So that's kind of what the way we see the tube and joint structure system that we use. Here we're using it in two ways. One is to figure out solutions for clients, and at the same time we're also using it to figure out solutions for ourselves within our facility. So for us, it's a nice complement to have, and to be able to play with this every day. Okay, so if I show you here, Julian, if you grab that there. Again, figure out or ask yourself, what do we need the Moonshine shop for, essentially? Like he said, it's just about figuring out, if you have sheet metal lying around, use it, put it to use. If you have leftover wood, plywood, scrap, whatever, put it to use. Again, sooner or later you'll figure out if this is another tool or if this is another solution, but more importantly than anything, is just figure out what you have and utilize it. So for us, again, an example here is we're trying to figure out things all the time. This is a work in progress. We're still trying to figure it out, but the idea here is that we want to be able to have a table that can adjust quickly with the heights. So one of our designers, Joe, came up with this idea, and it's pretty simple here. We got a gas cylinder that's helping this lift up. So if you need to have a higher surface, you can do so. And if you need to bring it down, then again, we're just gonna go ahead and push it down, bring it and lock it into place. It's not too pretty, but it is a work in progress again. So this is what it's about, is figuring it out. Maybe right now we don't have the final answer for it, but eventually we will. So it's still in the shop, it's still in the Moonshine area until we can get that next idea to finish that process.
Hey, one common question I'm usually getting is people submitting ideas, workers. Do they get something? Is there like a little candy at the end, or?
Well, that's
What have you
an incentive, right? What I would say, hey, come up with a solution. I would think, why not an extra free day of vacation or something?
Okay.
You know what I mean? Anything that can get. The idea is just to get motivated. I think once you see one person taking charge, eventually everyone else starts to follow. But they need to see that it's going somewhere, and I think that's. What I feel when I was doing a lot of trainings away, and I was doing a lot of trainings in different facilities. It was always trying to break or get that first person to jump, and after that one first person jumps, and then everybody begins to feel get the feeling and spread that moonshine shine feeling all around. So
Because here we don't have anything to give away. I've seen a lot of facility giving away hats and polos. At Bombardier, for example, I think they give you $50 when you have an ID that is implemented.
Not bad.
Caesar in Mexico and Juarez was saying that was the first time me hearing that. But they calculate their ROI on each ID is implemented, and they give a certain percentage to the person that suggested the idea. That's another way to do things. But I get what you're saying. You're saying like once the culture is really implemented, I mean, it should be a matter of culture, and people should just understand that if they submit, if they talk about what's bugging them, at the end, it should just improve their day-to-day work.
I think so. I think it's just to get rid of that shyness in the beginning. It's just like maybe you're too shy to kind of say, hey, what about trying this or that, you know? And then sometimes that's really what you need, is that one person that's been quiet all year long, and suddenly they're like, hey, why don't you, instead of thinking about it like this, think about like that, and suddenly just by flipping something over, the idea comes to somebody else. So it's a work in progress, and it's a work that everybody is involved in. I think that's really crucial, is to involve as many people as possible. Your solutions and your ideas will 99.9% of the time, from what I've seen, comes from the operators, the guys on the floor, the girls on the floor, everybody who's working day in and day out with that. The ROIs, what is that again?
Well, that's one of the questions we have is, okay, some companies doesn't calculate the return on investment for each improvement. Some does at a certain amount that they spend. So, for example, if it's a cost is more than $5,000, then they will start to calculate an ROI. So they will measure, for example, the actual situation in maybe 1 month or 2 months after the suggestion as implemented. They will calculate like what was the improvement there. Some moonshine shop will just not calculate it at all. So it really depends. I think at the end it's good to have some sort of like, here's how much I was able to save to the company. I think it's a good practice, so you can request more space or more people to be able to do more improvement. And I know at some point you have to go to see upper management and say, hey, here's what we've done, here's how much we were able to save. So I think it's a good practice to have like a leader in the team to be able to measure at least maybe the main improvement that you've done.
That's very important, because yeah, right, upper management might be hesitant in the beginning because they want to see investment, and I think part of explaining to upper management is that don't think of it as a fail, but think of it as progress, right? Because again, not everything that comes in the moonshine shop is going to be a success from the beginning, and that's really not the idea at all. But the idea is to walk on the edge a little bit as far as upper management goes, and say, hey, go for it, you know, be free to think. And that's really that's the main break for everybody, is that if you don't feel the liberty to be able to express yourself, then you're never going to speak out and find those great solutions that are available.
What you said is, it's good to have the moonshiners go on the floor, see the process, because they'll try to probably add the little thing to improve the idea that was submitted.
Yes.
And I think I always say here that your job as a moonshiner is to not to find the solution, but to make it happen. Okay, so most of the time the solution is from the people on the floor, but you know you're gonna structure it. What kind of material are you gonna use it? Is it going to be safe? This is one of the responsibility of the people that are managing the moonshine shop.
Okay, again, think outside the box, right? I can't mention that enough as far as coming up with solutions. Another thing that a lot of people often ask is what size should your moonshine shop be? When I'm doing trainings away at different facilities, I always say, hey, I'll be there next week. You know, just reserve or make sure that we get a 10 foot by 10 foot space available so that we can go ahead and set up shop, right? Whenever I do those trainings, essentially we're just setting up a moonshine shop on the spot because, you know, we're going to be there for just a few days. So that's the idea, is like, hey, maybe just all you need is a 10 by 10, enough to get a table, enough to get a couple tools around and be able to work again, right? So if we look at this area here, we're at 10 feet, right? So like I said, 10 by 10 for me seems like a pretty good number to begin with, but if you have to start with less, hey, you got to start with less. You got to start somewhere. That's the idea. So that's definitely something that you got to keep in mind. Prototypes, tri-storming. What is tri-storming?
Tri-storming. It's a brainstorming mixed with a try. So I think that's one of the most important thing about the moonshine shop is your job is just to try. Don't overthink. Try and improve. Try and improve. And that's, for me, that's what tri-storming is. And this is the responsibility of the moonshine shop. So you'll see employees that come and say, okay, we should go to engineering department and maybe I should ask this person, are you sure? Let's do some design. Let's go so CAD.
Okay, yeah.
Let's do a CAD model. Well, I think the job here as moonshiners is, okay, hold on. You know, if we have to just try and do some cardboard and test it out and do a mock-up,
yes,
I think tri-storming is that. It's just do some mock-up, improve, and if it's really working and it has to be more standardized, that would be a next step, I think.
Yeah, that's actually really good that you mentioned that, because I remember that in school, and we used cardboard for everything.
Yeah.
In furniture design school. Before we went and cut any piece of wood, we were always using cardboard to go ahead and get the shape and essentially just be able to visualize, see the size of the project, the scale of what you're trying to do. And cardboard is definitely a very good material to be able to utilize.
I think the first thing you should have in the moonshine shop is probably a pen and a paper and some cardboard and scissors and
yes,
tape. That's funny, but that's the first step because you want to sketch out ideas. And then after you go in the recycle bin, you try to see what's not used, what tools and equipment are not used that could be useful in your moonshine shop. Here everything is mobile, so we can close it down. But most of the time I see a lot of moonshiners using a space with the maintenance team, and they can
kind of like a shared space.
Yeah, they can use their equipment. But anyway, so piece of paper and cardboard is the first thing you need.
Okay, so again, guys, we would love to hear suggestions. If you already have a moonshine shop set up, we would love to see pictures and ideas that we could essentially use ourselves. The same way that we're presenting ideas to everybody, we would love to take some from you guys as well. And that's how we spread the continuous improvement, and that's how we make it, you know, everything is a circle, so let's just keep that cycle going. That's great work that we've talked about with the moonshine itself. I think we've covered everything so far. Again, if we think about it from the beginning, again, we want to think about coming up with ideas, right? We're sketching those ideas. We're creating the list of materials that we need. We're checking to see within our facility, if we have those available materials, what resources we have, right? We're making sure that we have all of the materials. This is very important, is to make sure that you have all of the materials available and ready to go before beginning your structure, before beginning your prototype, whatever it may be. Because again, if you don't have it all, you're gonna have to put the brakes on it, and again, go find some another material, whatever it is that you need. So make sure to have all the materials available. Again, designated area, mark your location so that everybody respects the Moonshine shop, and then the prototypes.
One thing I just think about it is Leslie Pickering is
Yes.
a good consultant that's working with us. Like to do the Moonshine shop, a place where people see it, where people go through it or pass in front of it, so they see it. Oh yeah, I should probably submit an improvement. They see it daily. Maybe they go to their break, they pass in front of. So this is an ideal situation, but most of the time we see the Moonshine shop at the end of the factory. That's probably
Right.
more the
I
reality.
guess we go back to the prohibition era. So let's not take it too drastic and go hide in the woods with the Moonshine shop. Let's bring it into the facility, and that's it. Again, visuals, right? If people see it, people are going to take interest in it and be like, hey, what's going on there? Okay, this is where we become children again. This is where we come and play with the things that we have. So again, don't be, remember, become a child. The child of a mind is amazing at what it can create in the imagination, right? So.
Can you outsource a Moonshine shop?
Can you?
Well, I think yes and no. I think the solution and the problems belongs to the workers, the people doing the work. I think the Moonshine shop for sure has to be in the facility because you like to try, put it on the line, see how it works, take it back, adjust. So that's really hard to do when you are sourced in another building. Same thing with, let's say, foam. And I know there's some guy here that I've used a lot of foam for 5S. You do a 5S, you put it on the place. 85% of the time, within 2 weeks, someone comes, hey, we forgot to put that in. So then you have to bring back your foam to the Moonshine, and that's where it's really hard to outsource that if you have to give it away to another supplier. But then I think you can outsource the training, try to put in place a culture, having people be able to train people, maybe to show what's a Moonshine shop, set up a Moonshine shop, maybe train some other employees. But again, the ideas and the solution are from the shop floor employees. So they need a connection between the Moonshiners and people on the line.
Right. So yeah, I guess in that sense, time is of the essence, right? So if you have to outsource it and wait on, again, add more time, it's gonna take longer. And the idea with this is to get that prototype on the shop floor and test it out, put it through the grind, and see where it needs modifications, see what works, see what doesn't, bring it back, change it, and then again put it back on the floor. And once you have that prototype ready to go, maybe that you can outsource and have somebody else make as many as you need of that particular one. But that initial one needs to, I think, essentially stay inside and then figure out what's going on again, and then that's where everybody gets to have their input.
What type of people should be the Moonshiners? Who are usually the best to do that?
I think everybody. I think you would be surprised, and oftentimes I am. Again, when I was doing trainings at different facilities, I always try to find the quietest person in the room, the one that didn't say too much, and I was like, well, I'm sure they have something to say. It's just, let's give that person a chance, and then that's kind of where the surprise came. It's like, wow, okay, you have a lot of great ideas. You should speak up. So I think that anybody should be able to be included in the Moonshine shop.
For sure, if you start your Moonshine shop with people, for example, from maintenance who used to work at TPM or they will think first of all maintenance. If you have, and they probably try to fix things on maintenance. If
Yeah,
you have
makes sense.
people on the line, they'll have a different mindset. But I think you need some time before really think outside the box, see things differently. You need to maybe do some little improvement. I think the Moonshine Shop should do little improvement first.
Yeah, that's
this
very
is
true.
where people first say, oh, okay, that's nice. Okay, I didn't know we could do that. And then they get more and
Right.
more involved in different type of solutions.
That's a good point. You say, you want to, again, don't reach for the stars right away.
Exactly.
You know, prioritize with the suggestions that you get, figure out which one is attainable, which one is relatively small enough to be able to really do it from start to finish, and then you'll be able to really include everybody in that design process. But it's all about, again, bringing, for me, the more the merrier.
Here's what other question: is training necessary? What about training?
What about training? One second.
Still on?
Yeah.
Yeah, training. So, I mean, for sure, like, I think moonshiners should have a basic lean training. For me, it's important that all the employees that are in the shop knows about, they can name the waste, the 7 wastes. And I think the moonshiners have to name them and have to recognize them when they see it. And then after training about like what type of material, for sure here we use flex pipe. So if you would be a moonshine shop using flex pipe, you should probably get a training about, you know, the basic parts. Same thing if you're using 80-20, for example, the aluminum extrusion, you should probably get a training for 80-20 at some point. Safety training, lean training. I know that some moonshine shops are taking care of lean training in general. Some others company, they have another continuous improvement team that taking care of the training. So that's different. If you have any other suggestion, please let us know. But that's kind of what I'm thinking about when about training.
Yeah. Okay. So oftentimes, I guess a lot of people will be familiar with maybe the Kaizen events or something where somebody comes in and begins to really explain what to look for, right? What to look for. So again, kind of the same thing with the 5S area, right? When you come to an area, you want to make sure that you sort it, order, shine, standardize, sustain, right? That kind of thing. So this is part of that training.
And a good point, if I can say, is that if you're starting a moonshine shop, a good kickoff is to do a little Kaizen, maybe a 1 day, half a day, 2 days Kaizen event where you kick off and then you start playing in a moonshine shop. And then it's just a way to launch the this new department, if I may say.
They're all great ideas. I think, again, like Julian said, it all begins with a paper and a pen or a pencil. So that's the idea. From there, you figure out what else you can throw into the mix. Again, every meal has a recipe, so you got to figure out which ingredients you need in order to make that happen within your moonshine shop.
So I think that's pretty much it. That's the first one. That's maybe a basic one if you're already taking care of a moonshine shop for the last 10 years. But if you do, I mean, you can probably try to answer questions. We're there to answer questions. Also, in the webinar, you can use the chat. Don't be shy. Don't be cheap. And we have a nice grocery list about what you could have in your moonshine shop.
Okay, yeah, we'll share on the links. We'll have a checklist, moonshine checklist. So for things that you could probably should think about including in your moonshine shop. But like you said, this webinar is really to interchange ideas and thoughts again. So let's comment, ask some questions so that we can go ahead and and get as many answers as possible for people. If you're already aware of what a moonshine shop is, you can go ahead and help us with the suggestions. And if you're not too familiar, this is again to familiarize everybody. And again, don't be shy, ask the questions. All right, guys, so again, thank you guys for joining us for the webinar. Again, it was really more like a conversation between friends. I consider everybody behind the lens a friend as well. So again, thank you for joining us. And again, comment anything you would like to see in the future. If there's any webinars, any topics that interest you. Again, we can talk about moonshines, we can build structures, we can design structures using the FlexPipe Creator extension. So whatever you have in mind, don't be afraid, don't be shy, and let us know. And again, we'll check back with you and answer all the questions through the chat. Take care.
All right, guys. So that was our webinar earlier this morning. Again, lots of good information, lots of good ideas. I like the action here on the chat. There's a lot going on there. So thank you guys for participating. Again, if we missed anything or if you would like to suggest anything, go ahead and do so now, and we can go ahead and answer questions along with my panelists. I thank everybody, and like I said, we're here to check what else we can do for you.
Hey, Esteban, there's a couple of questions that, this is Temi,
Yes.
that came often. It's during the webinar, you talked about documents, and a lot of people have been asking the list of material that you're talking about go onto the
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, no, I tried to. And the suggestions. Where can they find them?
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and send that information to everybody on everybody's email. I suppose everybody would be able to receive it. I tried to load it up now with the in the actual Zoom, and for some reason it wasn't loading up. Again, we're gonna have this recorded as well, and eventually it's gonna be on YouTube as well with all the links there. But like I said, we're gonna go ahead and make sure that we send the 7 ways, the project sheet, the moonshine checklist, and anything else that we use in-house to go ahead and send it to everybody else so they can go ahead and utilize it as well.
Okay. There's a few questions that came up. There was one particular, I think it was Roseanne. She was asking about, she tried to keep as much as possible, a lot of waste, a lot of parts, small pieces of pipe and so on. But sometimes she doesn't know where to put it because it's just too much. Does maybe Cesar has a solution or an answer for us about that?
All right. Let's see here.
Can he hear us? Is he able?
Yeah, let me check. If you're a panelist, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and be able to answer questions. And if not, you can go ahead and use the chat as well. Cesar, are you able to hear us?
He's not. I don't think he's able to speak because he's not a panelist.
Right.
Well, I know that. Yes.
Go ahead. Sorry, Esteban.
Yeah, no, it's just the question was what can we do about scraps and smaller pipes, smaller pieces and things like that? Do you have an answer, Julian?
Well, yeah, we have the same issue here, especially in regards of like small pipes. It's at some point, what do we keep, what we won't keep? I mean, we like to work with material that we at least can recycle, such as like the metal pipe. It's easy to recycle. We put it in a bin, and sometimes we'll go back in that bin, in that huge bin. But that bin is outside. It's for the recycling material. So I think we came up here internally for plastic parts or for metal tube. We came up with a minimum that we keep, but we have a Kanban of that. So if it's full, let's say we decide to keep like 12 inches minimum, but if the 12 inches bin is full, I mean, then it goes into the bin. So I think you can, it's same thing with foam, same thing with wood. At some point, I think you have to be very careful because the main problems we hear and we see is space. Like, oh, we don't have enough space. And then we go to management and ask, hey, can we get more space? but so we have to be very careful, I think, at some point to when we do some dumpster diving, like you said, Esteban.
Yeah, that's true. I always feel that I try to keep maybe like a 2 foot or a 24-inch pipe. But like you said, at some point that's going to be filled up. So there's only so many of those you can keep. At some point, you're going to have to get rid of. Also, with the surface is true. You should try to maybe keep, anything that's 24 by 48 is still a quarter of a sheet. You shouldn't want to be throwing anything away. But if it's a surface that is, a 10-inch surface by a 15-inch, something like that, you might not want to keep around for too long. But if it's something like a 24 by 48 sheeting good, then yeah, that's definitely want to keep those around.
And if I might add, if you're going to implement 5S and do a lot of visual management in the shop, I think the Moonshine shop, unfortunately, has to be the role model. So whatever you decide to keep, you just try to keep it organized. So it's kind of hard when you do some, like you grab stuff everywhere, but yeah.
Keep the shop clean. keep it I think so organized. It's really again, if we mention what the Moonshine shop is, it's really a visual for everybody. So it definitely is going to be the place that everybody takes the example from. Learn by example or lead by example, really, with the Moonshine shop, right? Organized, everything in its place.
Right.
There were also some comments that I found interesting is about the moral of basically the motivation for people inside the factory.
Right.
Do you guys see do you have any points on this? How does it increase the moral then in the work environment?
One thing I've heard a lot, and same thing here. Faster we implement suggestion, more suggestion will come after. If it takes 2-3 weeks, if there's a lot of approval process, if people don't know what's happening with what they suggested, I think faster you implement, and even if the solution is not implement right now, I think it should. We need to tell the employees what's happening, when and why, so they keep coming with new ideas. I think that's really what's going to help to implement a culture of suggestion and improvement. And
right, I think a lot about that also is evaluating the priority or the type of project, the size of project. Again, you don't want to start off with a gigantic project that you're never going to see the end of. You want to I find smaller projects that, again, you can be able to implement right away. So if you have a problem in the morning, you're trying to figure out the solution, hopefully by the end of the day you should be able to have a structure up and running and being prototyped, being tested, and that kind of thing. So definitely prioritize on the smaller projects and then work towards the bigger projects once you feel everybody's on board.
Julian, you and I, we visited Mitsubishi Aerospace. We did a tour of Mitsubishi Aerospace. I remember that at the end, Jason was saying that I think if people come up with ideas, they get some. I think it was like a Starbucks coffee card or something like that.
Small things.
I know you guys mentioned a little bit of it, but is that a good way of incentivizing, or is that like a bribe? I don't know, when you're getting people to give you idea. What do you guys do at FlexPipe? What do we do at FlexPipe? Are people?
We don't do anything. I think people wants to. How do you say that, Esteban? They want to be named. I mean, they want to be recognized. I think that's the most important thing. Is say thanks, just to give a big thanks to Jean-Roch. So we do that every 2 weeks. Here are the before and after picture, and the solution came from this person. And that's, I think this is what is the most liked thing from the employees. I know a lot of companies at the beginning, they implement like a little contest. They give T-shirts, they give some money. But like I said, I would try to really avoid that at some point, maybe, and really try to understand that the worker will just it's just going to make their job easier if they suggest things and recognition.
Right. So the motivation is to really simplify or the efficiency, improve the efficiency of the overall shop floor. But donuts doesn't hurt either.
Well, it never does, yeah. But there's a question about how much raw pipes we can put in a crib, flex pipe crib. Yeah, the flex pipe crib can be, as you saw in the video, can be used as a little moonshine shop. It's portable, so you can fold it down. So that's a nice thing. There's a unit on wheels that you can put some extra pipes or extra lengths. Esteban, you might know that better. How much pipe can you put in there?
If we're looking at full, or let's see, 96-inch full length pipes, I think they come in about packs of 8 or 10, and in the pipe structure where we put those, you could probably fit 2, 4, for sure at least 6 of those packets at 8, so around 48 pipes in total that you can have on the side, and then in the smaller openings you can go ahead and place the different amount of different dimensions you have. So again, you have a full length about 48 pipes in total, and then on the side you can go ahead and put the cut pieces. So that's pretty good amount there.
But it's also important we have the Kanban cards, so you can always refill all the components as you go.
Yeah, so one thing, Temi, again, right, I added those posters because I also like to, inventory-wise, I have an acrylic over that poster board, so then I can go ahead and just with a dry erase marker, cross things out that we no longer have, so we can go ahead and order them right away, or whoever takes the order of whatever parts you need. So that's a nice little way also to check inventory with that, with the posters up again, to cross or to check over the with the dry eraser over the acrylic. So that's not a bad idea also to keep inventory record. And then also the Kanbans, right? Yeah, that's
all right.
I see Caesar's commenting. I know Caesar's starting a little business of consulting business to help factories to implement moonshine shops. So I think, Caesar, if you want to put your name and maybe your contact information, it would be nice. Caesar is based in Mexico, but I mean, that could be also useful if you guys have any question, what kind of things they do. It's called Lean Moonshine Shop, right? And it's nice because sometimes consultant will be very good for training or classroom, but when it's time to have boots on the ground, I think Caesar, it's main strength, taking care of Lean Moonshine shops for about like 15 years in 3 or 4 different places. So that was my advertising section. Sorry.
A big shout out to Cesar Flores. Actually, we had a great conversation with him a few weeks ago. Again, picking his brain about moonshining and all the things that he has experienced in this journey of moonshine shop. So he was a great help. And again, check him out. He's got a lot of good info.
I will post a little article and video if you guys want to know more in few. And I don't know if there's any other questions we can help.
I think we've pretty much answered a lot of the questions, and we were answering as we were going in the webinar.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it then. I guess, guys, remember, if you have any other questions, you know where to find us. We'll get this recorded up and running. We'll send it to anybody who's interested. And then also the links, we'll be able to go ahead and send in all the information that we referenced. So thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Have a good day. Be safe. And until next one, take care.